So the Triarchy is made up of the free cities Mir, Lys, and Tirosh. They have many names. They've been known as the Kingdom of the Three Daughters, the Three Quarrelsome Daughters, or more rudely, the Kingdom of the Three Whores. All located on the southwest corner of Essos by the Stepstones, surrounding what is known as the Disputed Lands. It's run by the High Council of the Triarchy, which is made up of 33 wealthy magisters, 11 from each city. All the cities are slave cities. It's rumored that there are 3 slaves for every 1 freeman. Mir is one of the cities known for their art, specifically their lace and tapestry. They're said to be known their weight in gold and spice. Lys is another city where the blood of Valyria still runs strong, and many people still have pale hair and purple eyes. They're known for their pillow houses and bed slaves. Also known for making poisons like the Tears of Lys or the Strangler. And then we have Tirosh, which are the people are known for being flamboyant and dyeing their hair and beards different colors. They get these dyes from a certain variety of snails. So Tirosh is basically known for these very colorful dyes coming from these snails. All 3 cities were colonized by the Valyrians way back in the day. After the Doom of Valyria, the time period known as the Century of Blood, all 3 cities began their never-ending war with each other. They mostly fought over the Disputed Lands and the Stepstones. The Disputed Lands had very fertile and rich land, but during the Century of Blood, all this battling over this area eventually just turned the land into a wasteland. The free cities are known for using mainly sellswords. The sellsword companies, more sellsword companies have originated in the Disputed Lands more than anywhere else. Many companies are actually still active in the Disputed Lands. The Stepstones are a chain of rocky islands that divides the Narrow Sea from the Summer Sea. This area is extremely important considering it's a major sea lane for trade, so it's strategically important. It's consistently populated by pirate dens. They do not have a consistent leader in the Stepstones, but many have ruled there over a short period of time. The 3 daughters, pirates, and all others have claimed the Stepstones, starting multiple conflicts over the years, and it was not odd for the Targaryen dynasty to actually interfere in these conflicts due to the disruption of trade. The Stepstones themselves used to actually be a part of Dorne. They used to be the bridge that connected Westeros with Essos. The First Men actually used what was called the Arm of Dorne to begin invading Westeros. They would come from Essos to Westeros using the Arm of Dorne. The Greenseers and the Children of the Forest, in response, used magic to break the Arm of Dorne to basically cut off the First Men from bringing more of them over to Westeros. Tirosh was actually settled by Valyria to monitor trade through the Stepstones, but then after the Doom, the disputes over the Stepstones began, as we've talked about, and this was especially big between the 3 daughters. Around 96 AC, Volantis moved in on the Disputed Lands, and in response, the 3 quarrelsome daughters, Lys, Mir, Tirosh, came together to create the Triarchy. They drove Volantis out of the Disputed Lands, and Krakas Drehar, who we've seen as the crab feeder in the show, took the Triarchy's fleet and cleared out the Stepstones. They took control of the Stepstones and exacted tolls for any ships traveling through for trade. Westeros and the Targaryen dynasty initially approved of this. They were like, yeah, get rid of the pirates, cool, love that. But eventually, Krakas and the Triarchy raised the tolls, getting greedy, and they were even enslaving some people that were coming on through and sending them back to Essos. One of those people who was enslaved was Joanna Swan, who was a noblewoman from House Swan. Her uncle, when she was kidnapped, her uncle refused to pay her ransom, and so they sold her to a pillow house. And then she ended up becoming a high-profile courtesan and pretty much the unofficial ruler of Lys, which I thought was a pretty cool little story.
I think they mentioned her, didn't they? When they were talking, the women were saying, "Oh, what's going to happen to her?"
Yes,
so okay. I think she got a shout out.
I thought that might have been something. There might have been a little side conversation. So yeah, she deserves a shout out. That's a pretty awesome thing. She was like, "Oh, you're not going to pay my ransom? Cool, I'll just take over Lys." So. But yeah, all of that brings us to the dispute between Corlys and Daemon with the Triarchy, which we saw the culmination happen in our latest episode. Constance, what do you think of the Triarchy, the Stepstones, all that good stuff?
Well, I personally am annoyed by the Tarashi, just because if you've ever read the books, that's where Dario is from, Dario Naharis. And if you've ever read the description of Dario, his hair and his beard are dyed bright blue, and his mustache is dyed bright gold, which they obviously didn't do in the TV series because that's gaudy as all fuck. But the Taroshi were able to dye things like deep reds and deep purples, which weren't really necessarily something that they had in the Middle Ages. So that's why they can get away with having such elaborate colors. And I believe the Braavosi have like purple sails on their fleet ships.
Yep.
Yeah, because they get their dyes from Tyrosh, and that purple is, you know, something that they wouldn't have had in the Middle Ages or in a medieval fantasy kind of realm. So I think it's a fun story point. I mean, it's a very different culture than Westeros. They did have some good points in the getting rid of the pirates and kind of establishing a trade lane, but you know, the whole part about staking Corlys's men for the crabs to eat and capturing people and selling them into pillow houses, not cool.
Yeah.
Not cool.
And very unnecessary. They didn't need it.
Yeah. So I could see why Daemon and Corlys would say, look, this is a threat. This is going to pose a challenge to our authority, as, you know, this is too close to our territory for our liking. So I think that this was a fun history lesson, giving us a little more backstory as to what's going on over there and why it's important that they fight this war, and not just because the two of them feel like, oh, we need to go swing our dicks around. Improve for impulsive.
And Corlys even mentions too, it's like so bad for, I think he was losing a lot of money due to the Stepstones, which makes a lot of sense as well, which I thought was interesting that the crown was not, the crown was not thinking of it being a serious issue. I thought that was interesting that they're like, whatever, it's a couple bucks here and there. Like, I thought that was interesting that they were like, just so, I guess you could almost say like ignorant to the fact that it was like going to become an issue.
It's probably partially Otto, because Otto obviously doesn't like Corlys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's going to downplay anything that doesn't benefit him or his agenda, and having Corlys with more power and more authority from the crown does not sit well with him. I mean, you know, none of us trust Otto Hightower here, so we're going to probably blame everything on him every chance we get, just because it's about right.
Yeah, which I think is fair. I think we're usually pretty right to say that about Otto. He's kind of a dick, so.
And to quote Solar, fuck that guy. There you go, Solar. That's for you.
Yeah. It's like he's actually here.
Gotta throw that out. Yeah, that's my view on the Stepstones. What do you think about it? I mean, you've given us a big history lesson, but what's your personal thought?
I actually, this is one of my more fun ones to do to put together. I think that the three daughters are so interesting because like they are like, you know, they're mercantile towns, and like being a merchant there is like more honorable than like being a warrior or being like a lord or something. But I think the irony of that being like they care so much about like trade, but then they all fight with each other constantly. So I feel like it's like kind of an irony of like, okay, we all we care about really is the merchant stuff. We're just trying to make money, but then they just like all fight each other all the time. So yeah, I also think it's funny that they just hire sellswords. Like half the time they're actually battling each other. It's none of their men. It's just a bunch of people that they hired. So I don't know. I find that part kind of interesting as well. So
yeah. And it's interesting that they're hired and they're not slaves.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there was definitely, I'm pretty sure most of those cities too, at least some, well, maybe not most, but I know some of them actually do have unsullied soldiers, but a lot of them use unsullied soldiers as more like security guards rather than like an actual army. So, which, go figure, why would you use like probably the most skilled fighters in Essos and Westeros, but whatever, not for me to say, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they want to save their money.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're really expensive.
Yeah.